Scriptures give us such beautiful stories with so much meaning. And so today we celebrate the Epiphany, which actually means the arrival. So they are arriving finally in the presence of Christ. And remember too that there is a literal level meaning in Scripture. Many times there's a deeper spiritual meaning and teaching contained there in the Scripture. So if we connect ourselves to the wise men, to the kings, they're being led by the Star of Bethlehem, which technically, I guess, is the first Christmas light. So the idea, though, is the star is the light showing the way to Christ, who is the light of the world. And so what does light do for us? It allows us to see where we're going. It shows us the way. So it is a symbol for truth. And Christ says, all who are of the truth hear my voice. He also says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So they're following this light in the sky, and it leads them to Christ. That's the literal level. On a spiritual level, we could see that maybe things come to us in life that guide us to Christ. Now, in my case, I was a 14-year-old boy in New Jersey, very confused, in need of spiritual guidance. Fortunately, I had a dad who was a good, strong man of faith. So at Christmas, I got a Bible, which I started to read. That was back in 1976. And then we entered into 1977 as a freshman in high school. And in July, my dad gave me a miraculous medal, which is something I give out a lot. If anyone wants one, I just got my new shipment in. And so they're freshly blessed and in need of a good home. They're not going to do much good just sitting on my shelf. So if anyone wants a miraculous medal and a chain or a finger rosary, happy to give you one. But the promise is that those who wear it will receive great graces. It was given in 1830 by the Blessed Mother in private revelation to St. Catherine Labouré. And so since then it has become the most common item worn around the neck after a cross or a crucifix. And actually, if you wear it around the neck, you have a cross on the back of it. It has the cross with the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So that was the light that kind of guided me to Christ. The Bible was a sacramental, and the miraculous medal, another sacramental, and then somehow through the graces, I think, from the miraculous medal, I was inspired to just, for some reason, just pick up my mother's rosary on her dresser in August of 1977 to start to pray it. And it changed my whole life. So there are lights that God gives you, just like the wise men had the light that led them to Christ. There are, so far in your life, hopefully you have already had those lights. It might have been a person, could have been a thing, could have been anything, you know. What has led you to Christ so far in your life? Was it a person, a thing? What was it? And do you even need a little more light, a little more guidance to bring you closer to Christ? I think we all do. It's a continuous journey. So as the wise men set out, they were getting closer and closer to Christ until they finally arrived. So that's what we're doing in life. We go through life, hopefully getting closer to Christ as we go through time until we finally arrive to be with him. So we have arrived this morning at church, and he is here with us in the Eucharist, the bread of life. So on a deeper level, we could then look, so that's the first Christmas light, the Star of Bethlehem. And in the chapel, you know, we have the Star of Bethlehem, and we have the wise men painted in a beautiful gold and blue silhouette artwork that Lisa did such a nice job on. And then we have the Nativity on the right as you look on the back of the church. So the other thing is, it says when the wise men arrived, they had gifts. It says they prostrated themselves and did homage and opened their treasures and offered gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So there you have the first Christmas gifts being given, the beginning of many traditions of exchange of gifts at Christmas, at the birth of Christ. So let's look at this on the literal level. What does it mean? Well, gold is the king of metals, so it's being given to Christ, who's the King of Kings. Frankincense or incense is the gift to a priest, because Christ is the priest king. And so he got incense. And then we see the myrrh. The myrrh is given to him for his body for burial. It's almost kind of like embalming fluid, in a sense. So it's a strange gift for a baby. But Christ, as Bishop Sheen says, he's the only man that was born to die. His mission was to die on the cross. And so we see his love for us there on the cross. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that we are called to give gifts to Christ. He gives his life for us on the cross, shedding almost down to the last drop of his precious blood for love of you. So much does he love you. He created you, he died for you on the cross, and he's offering you eternity with him in paradise. So the gift of gold is the highest gift, okay? So do we give God the best we can offer to him? Remember Cain and Abel. Cain didn't give the first fruits to God, and God was displeased with his offering. But Abel gave the best. He gave the lamb in sacrifice. So what do we give to God in sacrifice in order to serve him in his 10 commandments and works of mercy? Frankincense, another angle. Sacrifice. What is it that we are sacrificing for the love of God? And what is it that the dragon is trying to tempt us with to keep us away from the service of Christ? And finally, the myrrh, because we are called then to die to this world. What does Jesus say? He says, if you keep your life in this world, you will lose it. But if you lose your life for my sake in the gospel, you will find it. Meaning, if you give up the life of sin, the worldly life of sensuality, and embrace the life of faith and spirituality, then you will keep your life in eternity with Christ in paradise. Because this world and its things are passing away. Now, King Herod here, we see an interesting moment. It says here, so the Magi says, we saw his star at its rising and have come to do him homage. So they're coming with good hearts to worship Christ. When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled. Now we understand that because Herod's almost the poster boy for sin. He's Mr. Selfish incarnate, total narcissist. But the thing that gets me is the next line. It says, King Herod was troubled and all Jerusalem with him. Why would people be troubled at the birth of the Messiah? Because it might mean they have to change. It might mean they have to sacrifice things for the love of God. So we see Herod being a sneaky liar. He's so worried about Jesus that he thinks Jesus is interested in his puny kingdom, So he says, search diligently for the child. When you find him, bring me word that I too may go and give him homage. Oh no, he's not going to do that. We see here in Matthew. I don't know why the guy that put this together, he stops at verse 12. My homework assignment for you is to go home and read all of chapter 2 of Matthew's gospel. Because unless you come during the week and come to the Holy Innocents Mass, which talks about what he does here, you're never going to hear the reading. So it says here, when the Magi departed, the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there till I tell you. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him. Now, how evil do you have to be to want to kill baby Jesus? Pretty evil. Pretty evil. In fact, he's so evil that he has a symbol for him in the book of Revelation, chapter 12. The dragon. And he's a symbol for all the politicians that seek the life of little children. So let's see what it says here. Chapter 12 of Revelation. And remember to compare that with Matthew chapter 2. It says here about the woman appearing in the sky, clothed with the sun, on her head a crown of 12 stars. She gives birth to the child. Then another sign appeared in the sky, evil one, a red dragon, a huge red dragon with 7 heads And it says here, his tail swept away a third of the stars of the sky. That was a third of the angels that Satan took with him in his rebellion against God. Now, this is the creepiest line, I think, in the scriptures, or one of them. Then the dragon stood before the woman about to give birth to devour her child when she gave birth. You talk about creepy. That's creepy. A dragon waiting to devour the child at birth? Well, who would that be? Our buddy Herod. Here he is. It says here, when Herod realized that he had been deceived by the Magi, he became furious. He ordered the massacre of all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity, 2 years and under, in accordance with the time he had ascertained from the Magi. So there's Herod, all worried about some little kid going to grow up and take his throne. Well, he's probably going to be dead by then. In fact, we read here in verse 19, when Herod died, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, rise, take the child and his mother, go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. So, you know what, Herod? Your puny little kingdom isn't going to last long. And I don't know what his final judgment was, but I suspect he had a very sad moment when he stood in front of Christ, who he tried to kill at birth, the baby Jesus, and had to answer for his life. Jesus says in the book of Revelation, behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give each man according to his works, whether good or evil. So that's something that we should keep in mind as we seek to follow Christ, as we seek to follow the star. So hopefully we are doing well on our journey to Christ as we go through life. And we need to avoid being anything like Herod. Instead, we need to do our best to be like the three kings, the Magi, the wise men who sought Christ with good hearts.